Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We go back to September 3rd, 1945, the Signal Oil Company program, The Whistler. This episode is about scheming politicians. Wow, what a dated concept. This episode is entitled Ambition Perilous.
Signal gasoline. Signal. New Signal. Yes, new Signal ethyl gasoline. The super fuel of tomorrow is at Signal dealers today. The Signal Oil Company and your neighborhood Signal dealer bring you another curious story by The Whistler. Tonight, Ambition Perilous.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak. Ambition is a very powerful stimulant, a powerful urge driving men upward toward better things. Unless, of course, it's so strong that it drives them on to evil things. That's the aspect that Fred Conrad forgot about. Fred was ambitious, very much so, and his great hopes had carried him far. He was the most popular district attorney in a long time. And now he had his eye on the governor's chair, and the prospects looked good for the coming election. But they'd look even better, explained Art Moran, his campaign manager, if Fred agreed to Moran's great new idea.
I tell you, it was a brainstorm, Fred, and it'll be a political masterstroke. The voters will eat it up. Fred Conrad, the great humanitarian, the champion of the underdog. Why, they'll vote for you in droves. It'll be a
Now,
cinch.
wait a minute. Stop rhapsodizing and tell me what it is.
Look, it came to me as I was going to bed last night. I just heard the news that the governor had issued a pardon for Max Fenton.
Yes, so what?
So what? He says, remember Max Fenton, the guy who was sentenced to life for a sensational love killing 10 years ago?
Of course I remember him. I convicted him.
That's the point. That's just the point. Don't you see? It's great. Convicting Max Fenton was your first big triumph as a punk assistant DA, right?
Right.
Now, the governor, your political opponent, pardons him. So, what do?
Issue a blast against the pardon?
No. You give Fenton a job.
A job?
That's right. You meet him, shake hands with him, welcome him back into society, and give him a job. A helping hand. Get it? You take him under your wing. Oh, it'll be terrific.
Wait a minute. That would mean I'd be siding with the governor, approving his pardon.
Not necessarily. You don't have to approve fully. I got your statement all worked out. Besides, sometimes it pays to jump the fence a little.
Yes, but suppose Fenton doesn't go straight. Supposing it doesn't work.
That's the beauty of it. Let the governor worry about that. It's his baby. He issued the pardon.
Oh, well...
Now, don't you worry about a thing. I've worked everything out. Talked to the parole board this morning. Got the arrangements all made. Here's the statement. You look at it while I phone
Not yet now. Wait till I read it.
Okay.
While I cannot agree with Governor Dawes on the wisdom of pardoning Max Fenton, a convicted murderer, the decision has been made, and I, as a good citizen, will abide by it. Furthermore, I believe it my duty to give whatever assistance I am able to Fenton in his readjustment to the society to which he has paid his debt. Therefore, I have decided to employ Fenton in my home and to offer him every opportunity of once again becoming a useful member of the community.
How do you like it?
Not bad. I'll do it.
Well, that's very decent of you, isn't it, Fred Conrad? That is, it would be if you were doing it for a sincere motive, but you aren't. No, it's only your selfish interest you have at heart. Even when you meet Fenton at the gates and shake hands with him and he thanks you with tears in his eyes, even then it's the newspaper photographer you're watching. And you're thinking about the stories that will appear. Noble Decision, the human side of Fred Conrad, district attorney. Editorials lauding you to the skies. You're thinking of Governor Dawes up at the State House, who's wondering what's behind it, getting nervous about your new political popularity. It all comes true, of course. The newspaper is the governor. But publicity can attract attention lots of places, Fred Conrad, places you'd forgotten about. For instance, at the bar of the Club Saint Moritz.
Hiya, Millie. What'll it be?
Make it the same, Barney, but double.
Double? Coming up, bourbon straight.
Thanks.
Something bothering you, Millie?
Why? Why do you ask that?
Just curious. You never ordered the double before.
Oh. Yeah. Something's bothering me.
Now, that ain't right. A good-looking doll like you. A swell singer. You knocked him with that last number. That guy down at the end of the bar there, for instance. He sat there with his mouth hanging open like he hadn't seen a good-looking woman in years.
Yes? Well, he's not bad himself.
If you like the type. Anyway, he likes yours. He sure been staring at you.
Know who he is?
No, you want us to find out?
You know better than that. The boss blows his top if I got guys hanging around here.
Okay.
Fill it up again, Barney.
You mean another double?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, you really are stowing. You want to tell old Barney about it? It might help.
It might. Barney, did you ever hate a person so bad that all you wanted to do was hurt them? Somehow, anyway, hurt them?
Well, no, I don't know.
Well, I have. That eats you up inside. But you don't do anything. You keep it all inside of you. And one day, this person does something. And he's a big hero, talk of the town, great guy. Maybe he'll get elected to something.
You wouldn't mean Conrad, would
I'm not saying who I mean. But he's no hero, and I can prove it. He's a heel. Suddenly, all this you got inside you has to bust loose. You feel like you gotta get it out, get your revenge, or else.
What are you gonna do, Millie?
I'm not sure yet, Barney. I got a feeling that a certain hero in this town is gonna be sorry I'm alive before very long.
September 3rd, 1945, The Whistler on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You ever make a change and then think, why didn't I do this years ago? Well, that's how people feel about switching to Medishare for their health care, especially now with inflation the way it is. People are very happy with the savings. Most families save about $500 a month when they switch. It's a huge help when prices are going up so fast in so many other areas. And Medishare's customer satisfaction rate is double that of health insurance. It's just a different experience, and people really like that. Medishare is an alternative to health insurance. It's a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it's been going strong for over 25 years. It really is the gold standard, the most trusted name in healthcare sharing. Find out why people love it, find out why they rave about the customer service, and find out how good it feels to save some money right now. They're super easy to talk to. Here's the number, 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE, 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of The Whistler, Ambition Perilous, September 3rd, 1945.
Frederick Conrad, public benefactor, great humanitarian. Too bad that opinion isn't shared by everyone. Of course, one person couldn't keep you out of the governor's chair. Or could she? Better get a grip on yourself, Fred Conrad, while you sit at your desk talking to Mrs. Christie, your housekeeper, as she cleans the room.
Yes, sir. It's as certain as I'm here in this room, you'll be in the governor's mansion in 2 months.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Christie, but, well, we'll take things as they come, eh? And believe me, those who've helped me stood by me through the lean years won't be forgotten. The little people who've served so faithfully, like you, Mrs. Christie.
Oh, if that isn't just like you, Mr. Conrad. Always thinking of others before yourself. Then, take, you're always doing someone a good turn. All those prodigies, for instance, like Mr. Fenton.
Protégés, Mrs. Christie.
Oh, yes, of course.
Well, that's just my little hobby. You might call me a speculator. I invest in people, and the dividends are well worth it.
Probably one of your investments to make another touch. Are you in?
Yes. And before you open the door, get rid of that dust mop, will you please?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see Mr. Conrad, please.
Just a minute, now I'll ask if he'll see you. Mr. Conrad, it's a young
Never
lady.
mind announcing me. He'll see me, all right.
Well, I never.
Hello, Mr. Conrad. Remember me?
Millie.
It's Millie, all right. And I'm no ghost. Mind if I sit down?
Oh, no, please do. Good Lord. This isn't possible.
All right, put your eyes back in. I told you I'm no ghost. I'm little Millie, Mildred's daughter. Remember me, Uncle Fred?
Little Millie? Mildred's little girl? Well, of course, Millicent.
Yes, Millicent. Now that we've got that settled, suppose you close the door. I'm here to talk business.
Well, of course. You may go, Mrs. Christie. Well, now, where have you been keeping yourself? Did you say something about talking business?
Yes. And I don't like snoopy housekeepers.
The whole thing.
There. Well, my friend, you've done all right for yourself now. District attorney, next governor. At least I know you won't be satisfied until you are.
You seem to know me pretty well.
I ought to. Do you think I've forgotten what you did to my mother? You killed her. Just as surely as if you'd stuck a knife in her heart.
Millie.
She committed suicide because of you. Yes, governor. I know the real Fred Conrad. And I've got an idea there are a few other people in the state who might like to know the Fred Conrad I know.
That letter in your hand.
Looks familiar, doesn't it? Hands off. I've managed to keep this nice and clean ever since Mother died. I don't want to get it all smudged up.
But I just wanted to compare it.
You wanted to compare the stationery to that letter on your desk? Oh, no wonder you looked scared. Still using the same personal stationery, same letterhead, Frederick Conrad, same thick gold engraving. I hope you're smart enough now not to write love letters on that paper.
What are you getting at?
Ever hear of a smear campaign? Sometimes it takes a lot of big guys with a lot of pressure to blot out someone's career. And sometimes it just takes a girl with a letter or two.
You're threatening me with blackmail.
My mother was a rich widow. You took her for every cent she had. You were going to invest it for her.
But I was. Could I help
that
the
wasn't
things
enough.
didn't go...
You told her you loved her, promised to marry her. I've got a complete record of your crooked, worthless promises in the letter I've got. Even when she had a chance to marry someone else, you ruined that. Listen to this. My darling, I must see you before you take this rash step. You know I love you, and I don't intend to let anyone come between us. Please...
Stop. I don't want to hear any more.
That was the night she jumped in the water at Cypress Point. Nobody ever knew you were there that night. Except me.
How much do you want for that letter?
Well, let's say $30,000. Isn't that about what you took from Mother?
Are you out of your mind? I don't have that much money in the world.
Okay, I'll take it on the installment plan. And we'll start with $5,000 by next Wednesday.
Oh, you cheap little blackmailer.
Cheap is hardly the word. I think you'll find me rather expensive before I'm through with you.
Wait. Who's there?
Me, Mr. Conrad. I brought the car. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had company.
It's all right, Max. Well, what's the matter with you two?
Huh? I'm sorry.
Well, hello. I remember you. You were at the bar at the Summer Ritz the other night.
Yes, I suppose I should apologize for staring as I did.
You two know each other?
Well, not really.
You might introduce us, Uncle Fred.
Oh, yes, of course. Millicent, this is Max Fenton.
Not the Max Fenton.
Yes. I'd better be going now. I just brought the car out.
Well, it's all right, Max. I won't be needing it. You can go.
No, wait. I was just going. If you don't mind, Uncle Fred, Mr. Fenton can drive me home.
Oh, yes, if he's not busy.
No, I'd be very happy to.
Good. Then we can go right now.
But, Millie...
Our business is all finished. I'm sure we understand each other, don't we, Uncle Fred? And I'm sure you'll make the necessary arrangements by, shall we say, tomorrow night.
Fred Conrad, the road to the governor's chair looks a little harder than it did a few minutes ago, doesn't it? It's going to be a little more costly than you figured. You've got the first $5,000 and you pay it. But then in 2 weeks, Millie wants another installment, another $5,000. This time you need help, and you get it. From Moran, your campaign manager. But the campaign fund won't stand too much, Fred. Moran has to account for that money. And he says as much the next time, when you're trying to raise the third installment, another $5,000.
No. Now look, Fred. I can't do it. $5,000 don't grow around on trees. And they're getting plenty strict about campaign expenses. How am I going to account for it?
I don't care how you account for it, but I've got to have it. It's important, plenty important.
You still don't want to tell me what it's for?
No, I don't.
Then I'll tell you. You're playing the sucker for a canary. Don't try to deny it. I've been checking up. This singer from the Club St. Maurice. She's been coming out to your house to see you, and she's been banking big money. Put two and two together.
You had no right to go snooping into my business.
Your business? It's my business, too. I'm in this campaign up to my neck. I don't intend to see you play sucker for a dame like that.
Now, look, I'm not playing sucker
what
for
do you
any
call
dame.
it? Paying big dough to the girlfriend while she makes eyes at another guy, an ex-con, your own gardener.
Fenton?
Yeah, Fenton. He's the apple of her eye.
You mean Millie is going around with Max Fenton?
Sure, behind your back. You'll be the laughing stock of this town if it ever gets out. That's why I'm telling you, Freddie. There's no more money, period. You better brush that dame off fast, or I'm through.
Yeah. Maybe I better hand.
Now, Fred, what's going through your mind? When Moran told you about Millie and Fenton, a great idea burst in your mind, didn't it? A great idea. But wait, Mr. District Attorney. You're thinking about murder. Murder, Fred Conrad. You know all about that. You know what happens to murderers. You've sent them there many times yourself. So if you're going in for anything like that, you'll have to be careful. Plenty careful. Set it up carefully, Fred.
Well, Max, you certainly have the green thumb. The roses haven't bloomed like this in years.
Just what I've been telling them, Mr. Conrad. Would you look at this basket of Cecil Brunner's?
My, aren't they beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you learn so much about flowers, Max?
I took care of the garden. You know where.
Oh, yes. Yes, I see.
We'll have to hurry if you want some of the zinnias, Mrs. Christie. It won't be light much longer.
Why, it'll be light for another 2 hours. What's your hurry, Max?
Now, Mr. Conrad, it'll take him a good 2 hours to get cleaned up for his date tonight.
How'd you know I had a date?
Oh, I may be dumb, but I'm not blind and deaf. Neither's Mr. Conrad.
That's right, Max. Oh, now, don't look so sheepish, man. You've got a fine girl in Millie.
And a mighty good looker.
Yes, sir. There are plenty of young swains who'll testify to that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Max, I do believe you're jealous. Just look at his face, Mr. Conrad. A regular thunder.
Give me that basket. I'll get you zinnias.
Why, land sakes, the man must be silly in the head to get so upset over a little thing like that.
Oh, I was a fool to make that remark.
Not at all. It wasn't your fault. The man is just crazy jealous, that's all.
You're right, Mrs. Christie. It's very obvious. I just hope I haven't made a mistake.
Why, what do you mean, Mr. Conrad?
Oh, nothing except, you remember why Max Fenton went to prison?
Why, yes, it was...
Yes. He killed his girlfriend in a jealous rage.
Oh, no.
I only hope I haven't made a mistake.
Nicely planted, Fred. Mrs. Christie will remember that later, won't she? The rest of the plan is taking shape in your mind, too. It's so simple. Max Fenton once killed a girl he loved in a fit of jealous rage. Why can't he do it again? Well, of course, it's too much to expect that you could drive him to it. But it wouldn't be hard to make people believe it if Millie were found dead, would it? Not hard at all. Of course, that means that you personally must do the job. But, well, ambition has carried you far, Fred, and you're not going to give it up now. No, not Fred Conrad. Now all you have to do is set up the scene. And Max Fenton helps you with that when he comes in to apologize.
I just wanted to apologize for that scene in the garden, Mr. Conrad. I don't know what came over me. I guess I acted pretty stupid.
Oh, don't worry about it, Max. The man isn't responsible for anything in this heat.
I don't know what's wrong with me. It's just that when a man's gone through what I have, his past just won't let him be. I guess sometimes I'm afraid of myself. Does that sound crazy to you?
No, it doesn't, Max. But you've got to exercise some control over yourself, man. Snap out of these neurotic fears. You're a free man. You've paid for your crime. Face the future with courage. You'll need it.
What do you mean?
Just this. Unless you're prepared to face things as they are, you're licked. Men will always be attracted to beautiful girls, and just because you've fallen in love with one, you can't keep her like Peter's wife locked in a pumpkin shell.
Oh, I know it.
Unless...
Unless what?
Unless you just take the bull by the horns and ask her to marry you. That should end it once and for all. You'd be married and you could be sure.
How? Yes, you're right. I've wanted to. But do you think I should? I mean, after all I've been through,
Of course, man. Now, look, you call her right up. Make a date to see her tonight, take her to some quiet, secluded spot, and ask her and get it over with.
By golly, Mr. Conrad, you're a brick. You make me feel like a new man. I'll do it. I'll go out and get the engagement ring and make a date to meet her at Cypress Point tonight after she gets off work. Thanks, Mr. Conrad. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thanks, Fred Conrad, for setting everything up so well. If Max Fenton only knew how well. It's going just the way you planned. You wait long enough for Max to have made his call. Then you put in one to the same number.
Hello?
Hello, Millie. Are you alone?
Of course I'm alone. Who's this?
It's Fred Conrad.
September 3rd, 1945, The Whistler. The conclusion next on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Whether you're taking your pets on the road or a walk around the block, you need to be aware of heat stroke. Hi, I am Dr. Jose Arce, immediate past president of the American Veterinary Medical Association. It's important that pets get out and enjoy the warm weather and fresh air, but here are some reminders to help keep your pets safe in the heat. Tune into the day's forecast to see how hot it will be. Limit exercise on hot days or schedule walks earlier or later on the day when it's cooler. If outside, stay on the grass instead of the hot pavement. Make sure your pet has unlimited fresh water and access to shade. Never leave your pet in a closed vehicle, and leave your pet at home in air conditioning when you go out. If you see signs of heat strokes in your pet, such as excessive panting, drooling, unsteadiness, or abnormal gum and tongue color, call your veterinarian or nearest emergency clinic. For more info on summer pet safety, visit avma.org. That's avma.org.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of The Whistler, September 3rd, 1945, Ambition Perilous.
Listen, I'll have that money for you tonight.
Well, tonight's only Monday. It's not due till Wednesday.
But you don't understand. I'll have all of it.
So what? Hey, you mean the whole amount?
Yes. I had a pretty hard time raising it, but I'll have it all for you tonight.
Well, it'll keep till Wednesday. I've got an important date.
I know all about your important date, but this needn't interfere. I'm not keeping that much cash on me any longer than I have to. I'll get it to you tonight, and you see that you have those letters.
Look, I told you, I can't...
What time is Max meeting you at Cypress Point?
11:30.
I'll be there at 11. I'll give you the money and get the letters and be gone in 10 minutes.
Say, what are you trying to pull? The setup sounds phony to me.
I'm getting fed up with this business, Millie. And wash my hands of it once and for all. Either you'll agree to my proposal, or we'll just forget the whole thing. You can go ahead and carry out your threats. At this point, I'm beyond caring.
Okay. Skip the dramatics. Meet you tonight at 11, and see that you're on time.
I will be. And see that you remember to bring those letters.
So far, so good. The plan is thoroughly formulated in Fred's precise legal mind. And as the time for action approaches, he carefully reviews each step in the plot. By 10:30, Mrs. Christie will be asleep. He can slip out without her ever knowing. The trip by automobile will take 20 minutes each way. And the lethal business to be transacted at Cypress Point, 10 or 15 minutes. The whole job done in less than an hour. And as for evidence, Fred permits himself a satisfied smile at this thought. Any number of people can bear witness to the fact that Sam and Millie had been meeting at Cypress Point. Mrs. Christie, for one. Yes, it will be an open and shut case. That's what Fred keeps telling himself as he makes his last-minute preparations before getting the car out of the garage. He stuffs the envelope with paper. That's all he'll need for the final payment. Everything's set now, Fred. So you drive out to the point in exactly 20 minutes, park carefully behind a row of shrubs, and climb up the incline to the little park overlooking the water. It's very quiet and lonely looking. There doesn't seem to be anyone here. Until suddenly you see her, lying on the ground.
Millie. Good Lord. She's dead.
Yes, Fred, there lies Millie, dead. And the thoughts go whirling through your mind. It's even better than you'd planned. Max Fenton had done the job for you, probably in a jealous rage. Maybe Millie refused to marry him. Somehow you don't stop to wonder about the fact that Max wasn't due until 11:30. But she should have, Fred. But now it's too late. Your thoughts are rudely interrupted.
Yeah, she's dead. Uncle Fred.
Max, what have you done?
That shouldn't interest you so much as what I'm going to do.
Max, no. No, stop. Max, what are you doing, Max?
Well, Fred Conrad, it didn't turn out the way you planned, did it? And as you gasped out your last breath, you still didn't know why. You didn't reckon on several important things, Fred. One, that love is impatient. That Max Fenton, anxious to meet his future wife and give her the engagement ring, had arrived early at the point. But why had he killed her then? You might have had the answer to that if you could have seen the letter he held in his hand as he walked away from the point to give himself up to the police. A letter he didn't give Millie a chance to explain. It was a letter on your stationery in your handwriting. Your letter, Fred.
My darling, I must see you before you take this rash step. You know, I love you. I don't intend to let anyone come between us. Please meet me at Cypress Point tonight. Just for a few minutes. I know we can straighten everything out. Your loving friend.
Yes, Fred. The letter you wrote Millie's mother long ago. The letter you were going to buy back with murder. The irony of it was you wouldn't have had to. You see, Millie was in love, too. She decided you'd suffered enough. Her revenge was complete. She intended to give the letters back to you tonight and keep the 10,000 she already had as a wedding present from you to her and Max Fenton. Too bad, Fred. It might have worked out so well.
September 3rd, 1945, The Whistler on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we start a new yours truly Johnny Dollar story, The Curse of Kamashek Matter. This episode goes back to September 3rd, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Jimmy Sayer at Inter-Allied Life, Johnny.
Oh, hi, Jim. How are you?
The way I feel now, the way I'm going to feel, depends on you.
Okay, let's have it.
Remember a guy named King Tut?
Egyptian mummy they dug out of a tomb full of treasure a few years ago.
That's right.
Well, don't tell me you held a policy on him now, Jim.
Oh, seriously now. You'll also remember there was supposed to be a curse on anybody who molested his tomb.
Yeah, supposed to be. But of course, anybody knows that stuff's a lot of malarkey.
Is it?
Isn't it?
Better reserve judgment, Johnny, until you hear about the Curse of Kamashek.
Tonight, and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Inter-Allied Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Following is an account of expenditures during my investigation of the Curse of Kamashek Matter. Expense account item 1, $1 even. Taxi to the office of Inter-Allied Life to talk with Jim Sayer. The conference was brief and not very enlightening.
I'd much rather have you see Mr. Turnbull and get the story from him yourself. As I said in the beginning, he's a very important client. What's more to the point, he can tell you about it much better than I can.
Jim, to coin a cliche, you're being just as clear as mud.
Also, by the way, he specifically asked for you.
Oh, how come?
Well, it seems he liked the way you handled the Parkinson case a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, Emily Parkinson, the widow who died.
Yeah, that's the one. She was his sister. And, well, go down and see him, Johnny. I honestly can't tell you anything more than I already have about the thing.
James, you have told me nothing.
But he can, and you can pick up a nice fee on it. As a favor to me?
No, for that nice fee. Jim promised to phone Eric Turnbull that I was on my way, and I ran of items 2 and 3, $4.20 for a quick lunch and train fare to Stamford. There I was met by a chauffeured car and driven to Turnbull's house. Far out of the town on Birchbrook Road, it was set on one of the biggest, most beautifully landscaped pieces of property I'd ever seen. The fine old home looked as though it had stood there in all its straight-laced dignity for 100 years, and stolid against the changing world would stand for another 100. In sharp contrast, a lithe, clean Studebaker Golden Hawk was parked in the sweeping driveway at the front. Haskins, the chauffeur, had explained on the way that he doubled as butler, so I wasn't particularly surprised when he opened the door for me.
Since you received a call about your coming, sir, you are to go right in while I take the motor car to the garage. Unless...
He glanced at the Golden Hawk quickly, back of me, then, having left the word unless hanging in midair, climbed back behind the wheel and drove off. Well, he said go right in. Inside, the house was a classic. From the tile-floored reception room with its walls of oak and the broad staircase leading to the second floor, I could look into the huge living room, finished in polished mahogany, with a leaded glass window at one side and thick oriental rugs on the floor. A fireplace that seemed to take in a whole wall, and fine mahogany furniture that glowed with a beautiful patina. Beyond that, I could see the library, golden and walnut. And sitting at a broad desk was a man, his face red with anger, shaking his fist at a very attractive girl of 22 or 3 who stood before him, obviously distressed by what was going on.
Don't call me Uncle Eric. I'm not your uncle now, and by heaven, if I have my way, I never will be. You're not married to him yet, my girl, and if I have anything to say about it, you... Oh, Mr. Dollar, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Mr. Turnbull?
That's right. Come in. And Dorothy, Mr. Dollar and I wish to be alone.
The girl stood there for a brief moment, looking at the man with an expression of utter futility in her face. Then, without so much as a glance at me, turned and left by the door that I had just entered.
Come in, Mr. Dollar. Come in, please.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about this. Somewhat embarrassing to you, I'm sure, but it's something I'll have to tell you about later. Sit down, please.
Thanks.
May I pour you a drink? I must confess I feel I could use one at the moment.
No, thanks, Mr. Turnbull. I think I'll pass.
I suppose it is a little early, but, well, good luck. Now,
Jim Sayer, an inner allied, tells me you have an insurance problem.
Actually, not yet. I'll be perfectly frank with you, Mr. Dollar.
Please do.
I'm asking you to help me not as an insurance investigator, but as a man I feel I can trust.
But you don't really know me, Mr. Turnbull.
Oh, on the contrary, I do very well. As a result of your handling of the case of my widowed sister, Emily, when she died a few years ago. As a matter of fact, you and I met very briefly at the time.
Oh, yeah, of course, Emily Parkinson. The case involved a lot of phony relatives who filed claims on her estate.
Yes, that's right. And your clever trapping of those false claimants and their cheap attempts to gain part of Emily's fortune was... I understand that several of them are still serving sentences.
Yeah, I believe so.
Which is quite what they deserve. If there's anything I detest in this world, it's dishonesty.
Well, I guess most of us feel that way about it.
Of course we do, if we have any shred of human dignity.
Yeah. But now, what is your problem?
It concerns Donald, Emily's son, my nephew. I had expected him to arrive here before you, but suppose I go ahead anyway.
Go ahead.
Well, when her husband died, Emily was left with a considerable estate and their only child, Donald. The estate's worth nearly $1 million now.
Mm-hmm.
With not too many years ahead of her, she wasn't well. She had lavished everything on the boy, the best of private schools, travel to Europe, all the things that befit one of our social and financial status. Before she died, she carefully put all of the money into a trust for Donald. A rather unique arrangement, which I control until he reaches the age of 30.
What would happen if he didn't survive you? Would it all pass to you?
Yes. But, of course, I have no particular need of it. When I sold Turnbull Enterprises some years ago, I think you can see that I'm pretty well fixed. Investments, you know.
Yeah.
At any rate, since his mother died, Donald has been living here with me in accordance with her request that I care for him. And I've been glad to do it, for I love the boy very dearly.
How old is he, by the way?
25. He'll be 26 in October.
And what's he doing for a living?
That's the whole point. There's no need for him to work for a living, as you put it. But in college, against my better judgment, he majored in archaeology and Egyptology.
What did you want him to study?
Business and finance, of course. Forgive me for being so blunt, Dollar, but I see no sense whatsoever in his taking the fortune that his father spent so many years building up and squandering it on a lot of... Oh, Donald, come in.
I received word at the club you wished to see me, Uncle Eric. What is it this... Oh.
Mr. Dollar, this is my nephew, Donald Cronin.
How do you do, Mr. Dollar?
We've been talking about you, Donald.
Oh?
As a result of a newspaper item I just read, to the effect that you're preparing for another expedition.
That's right, sir. I'm going to the ancient city of Thebes, in Egypt.
Egypt?
Since my trip last fall, I've done a lot of reading and research in New York and London. I'm convinced I've located the ancient tomb of the pharaoh Kamashek. An advance party's already begun excavation. I'll join them there.
Do you realize the cost of this thing?
Uncle Eric, it promises to be one of the most important archaeological finds of the century.
You mean it might be if I let you go?
If you let me go? Uncle Eric, perhaps Mr. Dollar...
Mr. Dollar can hear anything I have to say to you. You see, Dollar, we're finally getting to the point.
Yeah.
Donald, I'll make no bones about it. I'm quite fed up with your wasting your time on these stupid, pointless expeditions.
That's not the way the museum feels about them, sir.
Well, that's the way I feel about them.
Wait, sir, please. Donald, isn't that your collection for Yucatan that the museum recently acquired?
Why, yes, sir. My party and I were able to...
I'm sure we don't care about your party and you. You're not only wasting your time, but your money. The money your father struggled an entire lifetime to gain.
That money was left for me to spend in any way I see fit.
Provided your handling of it meets my approval. When you're 30 and the estate passes completely into your hands, you can do anything you like with it. Buy the Brooklyn Bridge if you want. You probably will. But until then, I am legally in control of it. And now, finally, I have every intention of exercising that control. At least to the extent of seeing you don't squander any more of it on these foolhardy expeditions.
I take it you've made several, Donald.
Yes, sir, and he's opposed me in all of them.
Because sooner or later, you've got to learn that as the wealthy son of a family, it's up to you to carry on the tradition that's been set for you. To increase the fortune that's part of your family name, build even greater financial power, not to throw it away.
Do you call my contributions to science and history a waste of money?
Oh, now look, my boy, there's nothing selfish about my attitude in this matter. I'm thinking only of you and your future. The family name that you alone are left to uphold.
Well...
Why don't you give up this asinine idea of going to Egypt?
No, sir.
What do you mean, no? Let me finish.
There's no point in your saying any more, Uncle. I'm going to explore the tomb of Kamashek.
Now listen here,
I've made all the arrangements, obtained the sponsorship of the museum, notified the universities that are interested in my work.
I say you're not going.
And I say I am, sir.
You young fool. Don't you realize that I'm in a position to cut you off without a penny?
If you think I care, Uncle Eric, you're crazy.
Then by heaven I will. So help me, Donald. I've tried to avoid this kind of situation, but you and your idiotic bullheadedness, your utter disregard for the responsibility and importance of your family, social status have made it inevitable. Now it's come in spite of all I've tried to do, and by heaven, I'll cut you off without a... Wait a minute. Donald, where are you going?
Egypt.
In the moment or two before Eric Turnbull recovered his poise enough to speak to me, my mind raced. This whole situation offered a big flock of wild possibilities. Obviously, the two were at sword points, had been for some time. Apparently, and I began to wonder about this, Turnbull had no need of Donald's money. Yet he seemed determined to keep him from spending it. And on what looked to me like a very worthy expedition. If Donald died, Turnbull had said, the estate would pass to him. Oh, and something else I wanted to find out about the girl who'd been there when I arrived. But why? Why did I want to know or need any answers? What could this whole affair possibly have meant to me? I'm no family counselor. I guess I spoke that thought out loud. I'm an insurance investigator.
Yes, Dollar. Which is another reason why I need your help in this affair.
But I just don't see it, Mr. Turnbull.
I'm afraid I must apologize for that little scene a moment ago.
Well, there's no need to. It was interesting, to say the least.
Well, we didn't touch on the one thing that I wanted you to know about. That girl, Dorothy Harkness, his so-called fiancée.
Oh.
Thanks to a generous allowance, plus fees from the museum and some of the universities, Donald's insured his life for $100,000. $50,000 for the museum, and a like amount for the girl.
Through Inter-Allied?
Yes. I'll put it to you bluntly. She has prodded him to go on these expeditions. And I believe she somehow hopes to engineer his death during this Kamashek project in order to collect on that policy. Do I make myself clear?
If anything was clear about this situation, I certainly couldn't see it. More things had come flying at me from out of left field during the past half hour than I could cope with. And I wanted time to organize some kind of thinking. So I used a corny old device, glanced at my watch, said something about being late for an appointment back in Hartford. I apologized, promised to talk with him again tomorrow when there'd be more time. Haskins drove me back to the station and courteously waited until the train pulled in, then left. And it was then I noticed the little Studebaker Golden Hawk that I'd seen at the house pull up beside the platform, and the girl, Dorothy Harkness, jumped out and ran over to me.
Mr. Dollar, I had to wait for Haskins to leave so he wouldn't see me.
Oh?
I must talk to you. Please call me. Here's the number.
Is this about Donald?
Yes, because of the danger he's in.
From Mr. Turnbull?
No, and you must believe me. From the Curse of Kamashek.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, a little order starts to come out of the Department of Utter Confusion and a promise of murder. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
September 3rd, 1956. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. A reminder that many of our Yours Truly Johnny Dollar shows are supplied by our friend Ted over at RadioMemories.com, who supplies programs on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer at a very reasonable cost. Contact Ted at RadioMemories.com. Please thank this radio station and support their advertisers. It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite radio station. Now, if you miss a day, you do not have to miss a single episode of Classic Radio Theater. All of our shows are available for streaming on demand at classicradio.stream. At classicradio.stream, not only can you stream the shows, you can also learn more about building a classic radio collection of your own. We have a list of podcast sites where our shows are available for download. You can also find our social media links. You can contact me, and then you can buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee money goes toward acquiring additional classic radio collections for us to bring you here on your favorite radio station. All of that at classicradio.stream. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Please do me a favor and tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.